haven't put his names up.
Good.
Oh, we're good? Okay. Call meeting to order of the Granada Community Service District Board meeting on April 17th at 7:02 p.m. We're gonna do a roll call.
Okay. Director Bowles? Here. Director Dye? Here. Director Randall?
Here.
Director Marsh?
Here.
Also in attendance is Assistant General Manager Hope Atwood, General Manager Chuck Duffy, and Legal Counsel Bill Parkin. Director Grant is not in attendance.
Apologies for my appearance. I had surgery a week ago, so this is what you get. Jen's lucky to have clothes on. Right? So, okay. So should we start off with our notice to sorry. Here we go. General public participation. So do we have? Oh, yeah. We have public members can comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Please, as a reminder, these comments are limited to 3 minutes. And we have one person already, and we'll take the room first, and then if there's anyone on Zoom, we'll take them. So looks like Virginia Chang Curley. Yes, please.
Can y'all hear me? Okay, I'm Virginia Chang Corrali, and I'm so glad to be here tonight and to see old friends and see Bill Parkin especially. I haven't seen him in years, and obviously to see Nancy and Barbara. So thank you for including me and letting me make public comment. I wanted to comment on a couple of things. First of all, as you probably know, I'm on the LAFCO board for San Mateo County representing special districts, and I so appreciate your support, and I'm very grateful to be able to be the special district rep for that. But I'm also on the Cal LAFCO board, which is basically a nonprofit, but I represent the coastal regions for special districts, and there are 15 counties, basically from Sonoma down to Ventura County. So it's quite big, and it goes as far east as Alameda and Contra Costa. So just know that the conferences that are put on by Cal LAFCO, those are the things that we do to kind of educate members of Cal LAFCO, and also public members, elected officials, general managers, chief public administrators, just about LAFCO in general, because people always wonder, what is LAFCO? So come to the conference in October in San Diego and you'll know. But I also wanted to thank you for your courage to really uphold the integrity and honesty and trust of a public agency. And what you're doing is really promoting good government. And I'm referring to the censorship of one of your board members. I know it's such a hard thing to do, but I think that the public's trust is really important. So I just want to thank you for going through that process and just really having the courage to do that, and just know that everyone's watching you and they're supporting you. I mean, the Harbor District has been through that before, and I know it's not easy. And I just want to commend you for doing a great job, and I think doing the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for the coast side.
Are there any other? Yes, sure.
Hi there, Kevin Sniczynski. I'm going to flip between 2 hats. So first I wanted to, as your liaison to the MCC, give you an update from our last meeting where we discussed the potential of agendizing a follow-up report from the GCSD to give the results of your survey and next steps, and also to kind of plant the seed within the board to start thinking about some hard asks that you might have of the MCC, whether that be a letter of support or support in some way. I think 70% of response in favor of the Burnham Strip Community Center project is a great result and something that you should lean into. And now flipping to Kevin, your community member, your neighbor, I just want to let you know that myself and 2 other community members went to attend the meeting at Jill's home tonight, set up as the alternate location. I've surveyed the site for the last 2 days. No agenda has been posted. No agenda was posted this evening. When we arrived there this evening, we were advised that she would not be attending. It wasn't made public to me in any other format, so I don't know if that is part of that rule. But, you know, the door was shut on us rather abruptly. We left and I am here tonight to sit in for the MCC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any others? Yeah. Oh, you don't have to fill that out. It's okay. You can speak.
Oh, that we get the spelling.
Yeah, I can't. Well,
That's what I tell everybody, meetings I'm chairing is that way we can get it right in the minutes.
There you go.
Because it's important. I just wanted to echo Kevin's comments and thank you for being on the MCC. You don't know how important it is. I served there for 8 years, so, and you are the voice for our community, and thank you. And I wanted to also echo Virginia's comments on the importance of public appearance and ethics for a board. We, as small government, we are constantly battling larger agencies who see our rate base as a good addition to their general fund. Us and the local voices. And we have to work very hard to maintain the ethics and appearance of our boards. So I think you guys did the right thing and I commend you. And I know you're doing wonderful things with your park. And I'm anxious to see them move forward. I see it's on the agenda later, but the only way the Mid-Coast has ever gotten any form of civilization, including sewers, was for us to do it ourselves. And that still remains true. And you're following a long honored tradition of our local communities working together for the betterment of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Can I make a quick comment?
Zoom that would like to make. Can't respond to you.
I know.
Okay.
Separate?
Okay. Oh, you want to make your own comment?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, my husband and I have both been equally sick for the past week. It's been 10 days now. I am confident I am not contagious, but you may hear me coughing. And my apologies for that.
All right. With no further comments, then we'll move to the regular meeting agenda. First item is the draft sewer authority mid-coast side general budget for fiscal year 25-26. Chuck? Yeah.
All right, so as I point out in my memo, we've kept everything from the SAM budget that was presented to the SAM board, including the agenda memo to give you background on what they were reported to. I mean, the good news is the O&M, purely the O&M without the capital costs increased by 1%. Now they've had a lot of substantial increases over the past few years, but that's still good news. The overall budget increased by 6%. But we kind of knew what was going to happen this year. Kind of knew the O&M would be relatively flat. We knew we'd have 3.6 million for the capital projects for the IPS replacement and repair Montera section. So I don't know if you two SAM members would like to chime in on anything.
I'll speak for a minute. I'll just say, it's very nice to have a SAM budget that's, I think, clear and doesn't have as many controversial items as perhaps we've had in previous years. As one who has paid a lot of attention to this and signs the checks, you know, just so people know, the labor costs, they got a 5-year labor agreement, which is very good because it means you don't have to keep renegotiating and raising at 5% for the workers. Treatment's gone up, environmental compliance has gone down a little, but you know, a lot of the costs are, the cost of chemicals goes up. There's a lot of changes that are happening and that they don't really have control over. So pension costs and chemicals and things like that. So I'm very confident and very comfortable with this budget as presented. And I guess
My only comment is Barbara, Director Dye is on the Finance Committee, so I defer, but I know for the past few years, she has made them double check every line on their budget. So I'm very confident that they're now in a position where if asked, they can defend all the various lines.
So shall I make the motion to approve the resolution?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-005, approving the sewer authority mid-coast side, wrong one, sorry. I printed these out, so we have them. Resolution 2025-004, resolution approving the sewer authority mid-coast side general budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Second,
Director Bowles,
Aye.
Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Randall,
Aye.
Director March.
aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
You have to remember to ask for a comment.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Public, is there any comment from the public? Yes, good.
I'm a loudspeaker, but I will use your mic. So,
Be on the mic.
Just doing due diligence, even at the NCC meetings since January, anything fiscal or budgetary. I just ask that this board look at any kind of impact that the federal budget. I know that there are a lot of organizations that are still coming under fire. And so if you could just communicate somehow to the Mid-Coast Council, but the broader community, if final line items are having to be adjusted, down as a direct impact from federal cuts, that would be very helpful. I don't know where the budget necessarily comes from, if there's like a pool, but if that is some consideration, just to let us know.
Actually, Sam is completely supported by the three agencies. They get some minor revenue very minor revenue from people drop stuff off. But the only potential real there was a promise of a $3 million grant to help with relocating the generator building or the electrical building. And I have been told that that is certain, but I personally wonder about that. Operations, everything in this budget is funded by the agencies.
No more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hadn't planned on commenting, but I will. I asked Keishan Prathvidi. I get the Keishan and Clemens. They're too close on my mental Rolodex. So I'm a little slow. But anyway, Keishan Prathvidi about the tariffs and the federal budget, and he is confident that Sam will not suffer from these. Because we are entering the New Year's budget process. And so I was thinking we needed to, even though we're approving that budget as we move through, I wanted to know I wanted him to realize that we need to be making alternate plans, the plan B kind of thing. And he said, no, he's very comfortable with what he sees at this point. So, I want to compliment the SAM board. This is probably one of the best budgets, the fastest budgets, and the cleanest budgets that I have seen. And I have been on the SAM board for more than 5 years, but I've been observing this SAM board since the late 90s. So I have seen really terrible obscene budgets come out, and the budget process, thanks to the current SAM board, is realizing that yes, costs go up and for all of us, and we have to keep our local employees. The labor market is such a problem now. If we lose our employees, we're going to be in a whole boatload of trouble. So I think this board has made a big difference, and I thank all the partners on our group that make things work. Thank you.
Just one more quick comment, which is that I do want to just acknowledge that the previous administration, the FEMA, did reimburse the sewer authority for a lot of the costs of the big storm and the harm that was done, and that was really appreciated, and it helped avoid having us have to chip in for all those things. So that was a good thing. I don't think it's going to happen in the future. And I want to compliment Catherine for being a member of the SAM board and being part of all these discussions.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was not gonna make a comment, but after hearing all the good things, I just want to balance that out a little bit. As you know, I have seen SAM budgets over the years, and over the past 6 years or so, a lot of the details have disappeared, and that kind of has bothered me. And you know that Director Dye and Director Marsh know that I recently asked for more details in the budget. So I wanted to ask one question, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there is one line item in the administrative budget for professional services, and it was a $200,000 figure. I'm wondering, can you tell me, is that 100% estimated for outside accounting services, or is there other
No,
stuff?
It's a combination, yeah.
That discussion happened, and we got along with it.
So you did get all those details?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll try to get that for you. I'm sorry
Okay.
that your question wasn't responded.
I was just curious, because as you know, we were promised a couple of years ago that the counting fees would go down, and I just hadn't seen that. So that's why I was asking how much of that was going towards accounting. But it would be nice if they could be a little bit more transparent with the details in the public, because they did used to provide that in one section of the budget where they explained the different items and they broke down the numbers, and we're no longer seeing that. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Right, since we've already voted. I guess I'll just move on.
To the next budget.
I'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
one,
that's still-
I'll get one, I'll get one pass on that. So the next item then is, moving on to consideration of Bartle Wells Associates.
No, we have to do the collections budget.
Oh, we didn't do that. Oh, sorry. I guess I get two passes. Draft the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast, contract collection services budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Okay, and for Wanda's sake, you haven't been on very long. We have the JPA, which runs the treatment plant.
Mhm.
Contract collection services is a completely separate agreement that the member agencies basically hire Sam almost as a private contractor to do. So that's why they're separate.
I see.
And so the budget went up 10%, but you know, the collections budget over the years, probably 5 or 6 years ago, is more near $900,000 a year. So that's hung pretty steady. So it kind of vacillates at that 650 to 750 number. So when we've always had great relationships with the collections guys, and they do a great job for us. So I'd recommend approval of that.
They also, they keep track of the actual costs, and if there is money left over at the end of the year, they give us the option of refunding that back to the districts or putting it as a credit on the next year's budget. And I think there's a $76,000 credit on this budget, which was budget left over from last year. So it's really just a direct cost
Yeah.
contract.
And I really think the collections people are great. They're local, and that's really important. At one point, Half Moon Bay looked into hiring another firm and ended up getting bids and getting somebody over the hill. But when something goes wrong, you want someone who's close by. And these guys, because they spend all their time cleaning, they rotate, they clean every system every day. They have a whole schedule of how they do it. And so they know what's going on. So I'm happy to, well, let's make public comment first, I guess.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Again, I hadn't planned on saying much, but Nancy reminded me this afternoon that when you get compliments, you should pass them on. And it's true. But that said, I had the Public Works, the county Public Works were cutting off the weeds on the corners or on the edges of my lot that abut the street. And so I went out to see what was going on, of course. And I mentioned that I was on MWSD, and they said, "Oh, we love working with your crews." And I know they meant Sam crews too.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is the highest compliment, that when the Public Works guys get along with your operations and maintenance guys, it really is a tribute to the boards too. And the fact that we've got this unified community of people who can work together is and at that level. I think it's very important, but I wanted to pass on, given your comments on operations, that they are reflected in other circles too. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on Zoom? All right. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move approval of resolution number 2025-004, approving the sewer, no, 05. Approving the sewer authority mid-coast contract collection services budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Second.
We do roll call?
All right, Director Bowles?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Marsh?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Now for real, we're moving to item number 3. Consideration of Barnwell Associates Sewer Services Charge Report and rate setting potential increase in the sewer service charge for fiscal years ending 2026 through 2030.
Okay. I'll start with the big, broad good news is the report only recommends a 5% increase per year, which is basically plus or minus 1% inflation. We all know, we don't know where that'll go. So that's the good news. We're in really sound financial condition. There's a lot of conservative, some of the big picture numbers are very conservative. You know, we're budgeting $720,000 a year for SAM capital projects. We're budgeting $450,000 every other year for our sewer main replacement. We'll be happy about no more delays. I said that to John. So I don't know how your board wants me to go through this in great detail. You know, my 2 districts down south both had substantial increases, and it was a much bigger deal. So we had a much more involved discussion. Again, this is just keeping up with inflation. If your board decides to approve a 5% increase, I would recommend that our Prop 218 notice make it a limit to 5%. What that means is if 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road, we're doing better than we thought, which, because I think even that 5% might be conservative, you don't have to implement the 5%. You can say, hey, this year, we're not going to increase the sewer service charge because our reserves are robust. I did my own calculation of where our reserve levels would be and what I thought was a reasonable reserve level. And we're well within that thing. We're kind of bouncing around it. We're a little higher in some spots, but quite honestly, the SAM project for the IPS has me worried a little bit.
Yeah,
because
that's-
that thing could go $2 or $3 million over what they're budgeting now, and we're 20% of that. So I feel comfortable if everything goes well, we can do 5%. I don't think that will shock anybody. Things go better than that, we can do less.
Chuck, our current reserve for the sewers is about 3.5 million, which I think I remember years ago, you saying as long as it's, more than 2.5, you were comfortable. So it seems like even if we end up with $200,000 or $300,000 more than we're projecting on the Force Main project, we've got enough reserves to cover that and still, the 5%
Yeah, and that's
will
why I'm
fill that.
allowing that to be, because that's the giant unknown, right? And when I do my calculation, it's funny, you get different people doing different reports. I do my own. And I have 3 components of the reserve: capital, emergency, and O&M. And O&M is a couple things. O&M is also cash flow. We get 2 big checks a year. So we get the big check and then we have very even expenses throughout the year. So you have to have at least 4 months of monthly cash reserve in there. I go conservative and go 6, and that's where I get to about 3.4 million in reserves. So this will keep us near there. And then obviously the reserve level will escalate because 5 years from now, things will cost more. So 3.3 will turn into 3.7 million. So I did that whole calculation. Try not to bury you all with all the stuff I'm doing, unless it's really pertinent, because that's a lot of numbers to look at. He's got strength of sewage flow. Those are all calculations you do to justify things. You don't have to bother yourself with it, really. So
We can handle some numbers, but
What?
I want to say for the community that we're talking about $4 a month increase for the year ahead. So, and we are still well below the regional average. And way below our neighboring districts. So, and I think everybody understands the importance of maintaining the infrastructure. It's really important and we need to have funds to do that. So this seems like a very reasonable change to me.
And to your point, Barbara, you know, our sewer service charge right now is 860. Next year, it'll be 905, $45. It's just gonna go up basically $55 a year. That's not a lot of money.
Yeah, well, it's gonna go from, where is it? 71.67 a month to 75.42. So
On the monthly charge on your.
on the monthly
yeah.
charge. Yeah, so
Yeah.
$4 a month
Yeah.
to make sure that your sewers are taken care of.
Yeah.
I think the community can support that.
Just for clarity, it's only charged once a year. It's on the property tax bill as a separate line, so they collect for us.
That's true. Yes.
So again, we're in good financial condition and 5% is a good rate increase, especially when you look around at power and water and all that other kind of stuff. They're increasing much more.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the plan for the pipes replacement and where those projects will be, but you're confident with the spread out over multiple years that we can get to the most important things in the near term?
Yeah, and what's nice about this too is if our reserves, we can get a little higher than we'd like, we can be more aggressive with that. So that's kind of why we're doing. So the other thing, back part of this, if you will, is this is the first step of the Prop 218 notice. So it's part of this, your board approves this. It's not, you're not setting anything in stone right now. We're gonna send out a Prop 218 notice to every ratepayer outlining all this stuff. It's in the back part of your agenda item here. Then come June, we will have a board meeting, a public hearing, and anyone who wants to come here and protest, or before that, put in written protests, we'll calculate them, tabulate them. As long as we don't have more than 50% of ratepayers protest, which I'd be shocked.
It would be
Your
1,000.
board- Yes. Your board can go ahead with it. And wanted to point out, this kind of bridges things. The next board meeting is June 19th. I don't know how you all feel. It's a federal holiday. There's no law that says we cannot have the meeting.
Oh, it's Juneteenth.
June, right? So don't know how you feel, but we have to know now because we're sending out the
Because
notice.
it's in the notice. So
It's
if
a
we
public
wanted to do
hearing.
a special meeting instead, you need that.
Right.
Yeah.
I would prefer that we do a special meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
So because of the timing, we'll have to do it a week later, which is fine, June 26th. Because we start but we have to publish a notice and give people 45 days, and that gets tight if you bring it back the other way.
Okay.
I also want to say to the community that not a penny of this goes toward parks.
Yes, right.
It's entirely for our.
And
sewer
we've got
authority.
a few other things. I think Pope pointed out to me earlier, we've got an assumption here that we'll take $100,000 of ERAF and send it to sewer. Well, we may decide, your board may decide not to put it to parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sewer fees only go for sewers.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Nice.
All right. Any questions from the public? Yes.
So on behalf of myself, your neighbor Kevin Sniczynski, and not MCC or any affiliates, I am glad to hear the update, talk about, having resources on hand, and I think that kind of speaks to the overall condition, the physical condition of the sewers themselves. I want to just make the comment and perhaps the question to dispel some of the comments that are made on social media, especially on Nextdoor, that claims that the GCSD is, running in the negative, and that certain projects are constantly being conflated with park as it pertains to this budget. And in particular, there have been some comments recently about how our partner in this Half Moon Bay is way over capacity, and it's doom and it's gloom. And it doesn't sound like that is actually the case in listening to this update. So if somebody could just speak to that in some level of detail, so that when people are making those kind of comments, the public can be armed with facts and truth, and try to negate some of that in advance.
You mean the capacity and the sustainability of the sewer plant and service itself?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd probably be more of a Sam question than us. So there is this, when it rains, the only issue is when we have heavy rains, obviously. And at times the plant flow, which is usually about 1.5 million gallons a day, gets up to 15 million.
So then I guess the specific question is, has there been in the last 5 years or even more recently, an instance where the physical systems have been overwhelmed and the impact has bled into fiscal nightmares and all of the things that you hear in the public forum? I think I know we laugh at that,
Right.
but these are actually comments
out
that are
there,
being
yeah.
made.
Yeah.
And empowering the community to be able to respond to those in a meaningful way is important.
Yeah, I mean, our system has not been overwhelmed in the past 5 years. The SAM system has utilized the overflow tanks out in the, I don't hate to call them overflow tanks, where the storage tanks out in the Burnham Strip. And they've gotten pretty high to probably within a foot. And, you know, we've been able to turn off the Portola pump station here, which stops sending the flow to Half Moon Bay. So when the two have a confluence, it allows their stuff to go more to the treatment plant. That's been a source of contention, if you will, probably on social media as well. There's never been an actual engineering study figure that out. There's been a bunch of discussion and a bunch of talk, but that's
And I like to saying that there are reserves and that it has no connection to the park. So
right.
repeating that again, recognized.
Yeah, okay. Well, and I went through a lot of work this past year because this is the first year, not the first year, but we really separated stuff out. And I did a 10-year look back and completely separated sewer reserves from park reserves. So there is no commingling of the two.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, so with that, any other comments from the board? We have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve approving the rate study and potential increase. And I think we're approving, I'm only looking at the agenda and not the resolution.
Right. And we're basically approving the rate study, sewer service charges for the next 5 years, and you're directing staff to send out the Prop 218 notice, and I'm gonna tweak it a little to make it say, you know, up to 5%.
And June 26th is the date.
On June 26th, yep.
And yeah, June 26th, that date. Okay, was that clear enough from Chuck?
Together, teamwork made the dream work. Do I?
You know.
do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, can we? roll call?
Okay, Director Bowles,
Aye.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Randall.
Yes.
Director Marsh,
Yes.
motion carries.
Great. All right, resolution to update the district SAM. It's a lot. We're just sewering it up today, aren't we?
We are.
Resolution to update the district SAM representatives.
Okay, I was asked to put this on the agenda by a couple of directors in light of the censure of Director Grant last month. She is the first alternate on the SAM list.
Given, I think I'm one of the people who has to have this on, and given not just the censure, we can censure, and censure may not look like it has much of an impact on anything else except a check mark next to your name. But if there had been a reaction to that as an apology for embarrassing the district or pulling the district's name into a repute, and so that we had to defend ourselves and our integrity, then I might have felt differently. But because there was no scintilla of taking responsibility or recognizing the impact on the district, I'm lost confidence that Director Grant will represent the district as opposed to representing herself. And as someone who's going to be missing a couple SAM meetings soon, I'd be more comfortable if we changed our representation so that it is in whatever order they would prefer Director Randall and Director Bowes rather than Bowles. Sorry, I keep saying that's the wrong name. Rather than Director Grant and Director Randall.
Yeah. Any other board members?
I agree with that. And also, I know it's been difficult to reach Jill a lot of the time, and it's really important to have someone there. Agreed. What do you need?
I guess the question.
Oh, no,
becomes-
we have to
Oh.
public comment first. Any comment from the public?
Go ahead, Catherine.
We just need you to go.
I think you've all made really valid points, and I think that the majority of the community who showed up, wrote letters, sent emails, share the sentiment. And again, I need to be clear that I am speaking for myself as a neighbor and not the MCC as it pertains to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with all the sentiment shared. I do echo your point. Director March, just the response was shocking to say the least. So I think to me that just speaks a lot to how we might proceed as a board going forward, just generally. Like I just very disappointed in the response. So I support this as a strategy moving forward.
So the question is, who would like to be first alternate and who would like to be second alternate?
There's no report.
Oh.
I wasn't gonna make a comment.
I'm gonna be good third.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna make a comment of kind of my shirt. But I just want to say that it's not an easy decision. I applaud you for what you're doing. I think the most important thing that a public agency, and in this case, Sam, with 3 public agencies representing, an essential service, when you have elected people on the board representing your respective boards, professionalism and accountability are 2 of the most important things that, you need to represent. So thank you for taking this into your own hands and doing the best job you can.
Thank you.
So, Madam, I feel like I would prefer not to be first, but I also respect that this is your first year on the board. So,
I would be happy to be first alternate.
okay.
Yeah, I'd be
Fantastic.
happy to step in, because I also feel the sentiment that was communicated to the board was, a total lack of confidence in Director Grant. And I think this is important for all of us to, continue to lift ourselves up and the community and continue on.
And I'd just like to say that, with very little time on the board, Jen stepped in to be the rep at one of the meetings and she was awesome. So, you just need to read the materials, and if you have questions, whoever's one of us is going to be there with you. We're happy to point out ahead of time what the tricky bits might be and so forth. So,
That
it
would be
would be
great.
lots of support, and either one of you would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
So then I would like to make a motion that we approve the resolution to update District SAM representatives to first alternate being Director Wanda Bowles and second alternate being Director Jen Randall.
Second.
And no change to our current representatives.
Correct.
And no change to the current representatives, correct?
Okay, somebody seconded?
Yes.
Yes, Barbara.
I thought that was appropriate.
All right, Director Bowles,
Yes.
Director Dodd,
Yes.
Director Randall,
Yes.
Director Marsh.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
All right. The most contentious of all things to discuss right now. Number 5. Renewal of agreement with District Legal Counsel Whitwer Parkin and the case-related legal counsel Davis Bankston and Young, APLC.
Yeah, I have no problem with the latter firm.
How long is it?
Obviously, hopefully, we all think Bill does a great job, and Nancy was just saying something to that effect before the meeting today, so I'd recommend approval of Bill's contract as well as the other guys are special counsel for the Half Bay lawsuit. I'd recommend approval for
I
both.
mean, that extra $15 an hour. Better.
Put food on the table.
That just pays for his gas to and from.
I was gonna say, he just speeds back and forth, all right, is there any comment by the board?
I'm happy to continue the contract. I think he has done a great job, and we're heading toward a key point. We need
In
to
this year, yes.
keep our excellent representation in place. So I'll make the motion to renew the agreement with Davis, Bankston and Young.
Before
I'll
we do
second.
that- Before we do that, just any community comments questions here or online? Okay. Now, we have a motion and a second.
And who was our second?
Wanda?
Me.
All right, Director Bowles,
Yes.
Director Dye.
Yes.
Director Randall. Yes. Director Marsh.
Yes.
And motion carries 4-0.
All right, renewal of agreement with District Engineer Kennedy Jenks.
My understanding, we've had great success with John Rayner, so I would recommend approval of that as well.
I have to say, I sign the engineer's checks for Sam, because I sign a lot of checks, just so I know what's going on. Kennedy Jenks is a bargain, and they do a great job for us.
Well, it's actually a good marriage because he's semi-retired,
Yeah.
so he's not there churning bills out there.
All right, any other comments from the board?
Nope.
All right, the public? Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the renewal agreement with District Engineer Kennedy Jenks as recommended.
Okay, second. I second.
Okay, Director Bowles,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Randall,
Aye.
Director Marsh.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Okay, so actually this might be the one that. So discussion of board meeting teleconferencing and board member attendance policy. I know Chuck, you're gonna kick us off, but before we turn to board comments after you, Chuck, I'd like for Bill, if you could just reiterate to the board sort of the different ways that we can think about teleconferencing and how we should be thinking about that too. Yeah.
Sure, be happy to.
Okay.
So there's, the Brown Act, there's traditional teleconferencing. That still exists, contrary to what you may or may not have heard out there. And under traditional teleconferencing, a member requests to have, and by the way, the board does not have to allow traditional teleconferencing at all. I mean, the board could say, we're not doing any teleconferencing ever. But the way it's worked here and in many places is a member is away on vacation or on business or something and needs to attend remotely. And so that location where they're going to teleconference from is posted on the agenda, and the agenda then needs to be posted at that location. And so that's the traditional teleconferencing rule. Post-pandemic, the legislature amended the Brown Act to include a provision for what is called state of emergency. Okay. And the other one is emergency circumstances or just cause circumstances. Now, the latter one sunsets on January 1st of 26. Okay. But there's a bill in the legislature to reauthorize that and continue that. And the just cause provision is basically someone's ill or is taking care of a family member, or there's some issue where they can't attend, and they explain, and Director Bowles went through this,
Right.
and we walked her through it, and she attended remotely on that one meeting. That particular provision only allows for there's sort of a sliding scale depending on how many times a board meets. And in your case, you only meet once a month, so you're limited to, board members limited to twice a year to do to take advantage of that provision.
For
So-
just cause.
For just cause, right? Teleconferencing, if you authorize it, can happen as many times as you would like. And the only other restriction you should be aware of is that, the way the law is structured, technically all 5 of you could, do a remote teleconference. Not very effective for many people, but you could do that as long as each location was posted and members of the public could attend those locations, as long as at least 3 members were in the district boundaries at the time. So you always need at least 3 members within the district boundaries. So that's kind of key. And one of the things to remember where this really comes up generally is usually only one person is teleconferencing in.
Yeah.
And then you have a quorum with 3, because there's 2 other board members absent from the meeting, and you can't hold the meeting because you don't have, generally in those situations, you generally don't have 3 people within the district. people generally only use the teleconferencing provision when they're away, right? So that's when that issue usually comes up and then the meeting cannot happen.
So the second option is sort of catastrophic, like if the town blew away and we had to have a meeting huddled somewhere else.
Yeah, so the state of emergency one, yeah, that is like, we have another pandemic, God forbid,
Right.
or some other catastrophic thing that
Right.
happens, and
Got it.
hopefully we won't have any of those issues.
Yeah, Sam had to spill that one time. They
Right.
had to take action quick.
Right.
Yeah,
So I just thought it was important we start like calibrating understanding what those before we got into the conversation of the memo itself. So I don't know, Chuck, if before the board starts going, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, not much. Basically, this is almost boilerplate to the government code. I mean, the key crux of it, I have to give Hope credit here. It's my name on it, but she wasn't here last month, so I just parroted it. But we're parroting the government code, so the real crux of the issue is page 96 on board member attendance in person versus teleconference. That's kind of the only thing that we would change in this unless someone's got some particular nits they want to pick. Again, we're copying the government.
And I know Nancy, you wanted to speak first.
I have, my simple understanding, I've had a number of members of the community bring this up to me. And I think the general misunderstanding, once Bill and I spent many times going back and forth, is I now have it boiled down to, we can do teleconferencing with notice and public access, teleconferencing without notice or public access if the vote for cause or emergency, if the board votes to allow that, as we voted for Wanda to attend that. And we can approve neither of those. We can approve either of those, or we can approve both of those. But the one thing I'm going to clarify, Bill, is I think we had this discussion. If we approve the traditional teleconferencing with notice and a location, can we modify by policy? So traditionally, this has been used by this board and the SAM board and others. Only when somebody is out of town, they're traveling on business or vacation, and they're attend the meeting from their remote location. And, we somebody could have joined me in my condo in Hana last August. I would have let them in. It would have been kind of fun. But when somebody's in the district, the tradition of this board prior to the pandemic was, if you're in the district, you come to the meeting. Because like last meeting, we had 12 people here. And, to see their board and interact with their board. So my question to sum it up is, if we allow traditional teleconferencing, can we elect to allow it, but restrict it to conditions when somebody is traveling outside the district by policy?
it's a great question because, the government code doesn't speak to what you can or cannot do in that regard, but what it does say is that the board elects to allow this. In other words, you can prohibit it completely. So the fact that I think you could put some restrictions on it, I want it to be very clear, even-handed and fair, but I wouldn't, and I probably wouldn't recommend picking a number of times like the just cause provision, because that could
Either
create
or.
confusion and, but I think, traveling outside the district for, you're on vacation or you're on business and you're not going to be able to make the meeting, but you still want to teleconference in. I think that is a fine restriction. I don't think there's any problem with doing that. And, again, it's usually not been an issue because that's how people use it traditionally anyway.
The other thing, and I think it was at the beginning of the memo, is with regard to public participation by Zoom, audio, visual, internet. And I was at a LAFCO meeting last month where that came up, and LAFCO is writing standards for their service reviews with allowing the public to participate by teleconference, Zoom, audio, visual as a standard practice. And Debbie Ruddock is on the subcommittee working on those standards. They're working on that next week. So maybe we keep doing what we're doing, but maybe hold off on talking about creating a policy for public access until we see what LAFCO comes up with as standards. Would be my suggestion.
What?
So that we make sure we comply with the LAFCO standards, since they use that for their service reviews of independent.
So we're clear, we're under no
We have
requirement to
to do
comply
that.
with LAFCO.
Yeah.
I assume that's their municipal services review? Yeah.
So this was in response to the Harbor District's MSR, but it's not just going to be for special districts. It's going to be for all the cities, the county agencies that, like, if we do an MSR on dependent special districts, for example, that are under the jurisdiction of the county and special districts, it's mainly for best practices. And it'll be just like on a checklist, but at the same time, we are not trying to contravene state law too. So I just want to make that very clear. And the subcommittee's working on that, but that doesn't mean that the whole board isn't going to get a last crack at, what this should be. So I just want to make it very clear that for me, I don't want to necessarily go against state law, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the public has accessibility to make public comment when they're chiming in or, zooming in, so to speak.
But they're just recommendations.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that there's a possibility that they're going to be like on a checklist for MSRs.
So just so everyone's sorry.
Yeah,
Municipal services reviews.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Every 5 years, LAFCO looks at the most efficient, best delivery of services within usually a group of districts that are.
well, it's actually for all of the three categories of government, which is basically right now cities and special districts. So I just want to make it very clear, it's not just special districts. So all the cities go through it. I'm on the budget committee and we're going through the planning stage right now as to, what order, we're looking at in terms of MSRs. And, obviously if there are situations like if there's one city or one town that is going through a lot right now that, we're kind of probably going to move up as a priority for, in front of other special districts, just because they're going through a lot. So it's not just to focus on special districts. At that time, they were looking at the Harbor District, which I'm on the board of, and also Coastside Fire. So it's just, like I said, a checklist, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're not trying to, usurp state law.
Thank you. That was my first LAFCO meeting, so I'm just getting used to the rules. So
I feel like we are in position to make our own decision in relative to guidance from.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we need to wait or anything. I would prefer we've sort of tabled this now to this month. And I'd like for us to sort of decide on this issue this evening.
that guidance, I think we have three. One is whether we direct staff to make a policy for public access, because we don't have a policy that says we do that. And then the second is, do we allow the just cause type of teleconferencing? And then third is, do we allow general old-fashioned teleconferencing? And if so, do we restrict it by policy?
Yeah, sorry.
So I just had one comment about that. I think what we want to do is have the just cause, whether you allow it, is made on a case-by-case basis. At the time the request is made, like we did with director.
Because we vote on it.
Right.
Because you vote on it, and the statute kind of envisions that.
Right.
So I'd like to leave that sort of in that.
Same, yeah, it's the
Right.
first one, right, the total.
Right, that's the one where you have, you can elect, we can make a policy that says we're gonna allow this or we're not, or we're
I
gonna
see.
put some limits on it. The other thing is I don't want to conflate this with access by the public, because public access is not required by law, but it's become a very common practice for many, many agencies.
I think that the memo suggested that we codify it in a policy.
Correct,
public
correct.
access.
I just want to make sure that we're not conflating
Conflating
the legal requirements for board attendance via teleconferencing versus the public. Because I think you can allow the public full access, but at the same time restrict the board teleconferencing access, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
So
Appreciate your
I would-
question.
I would just say, like, my perspective on this, that I like the sort of clause, if you will, around teleconferencing and making a policy of if you are in the district, we should be in this room. Unless there is an issue that prohibits you from doing it, and then we would decide at that meeting as a
A
board,
just cause issue.
a just cause issue. It doesn't make sense to me why someone wouldn't be here if they are here in the district. So I just want to
Yeah.
put that out there.
And I'd like to add to Jen's point that I completely agree with that. We're a small community, a small board. I think it's important to show up in person. And so I agree with that.
And I would just go as far, Bill and I had a conversation about this. So then, to be clear, right, if that is the case where a board member is, say, on Zoom and not here, and not in the room with us, but here in the district, they are then not able to vote.
You're a member of the public.
They're a member of the public. So I just want to make sure that that is something that's very clear, like what the impact of the decision would be.
So Jen, are you, just to be clear, are you suggesting that we allow traditional teleconferencing, but with the policy restriction to when you're out of town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, and so then it's, but then you have a post and you have to do all of the same things
Right.
that we're saying as previous, yeah.
So if you're traveling, you don't have to have it voted on. It's only if you're
If you-
sick and can't make it, that you need
That's
to have it
correct.
voted.
If you adopt
Okay.
this policy, then you
I mean,
member can.
There are still rules about when you're traveling. You have to
Right.
fulfill those, but you don't have to have a vote because there've been times where I haven't been exactly sure what the address is going to be
Correct.
like a month ahead. So.
No, but it would just be like, you'd have to have 2 days.
3 days notice.
Yeah.
72 hours.
72 hours.
Yeah, I've done that. I've always done that.
Yeah, so that would still hold.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
so
also
the board
say-
member- and I don't know if you want to write that in policy at all. I haven't talked to Chuck or Hope about this, but you could write in policy that the board member has to inform the general manager and assistant general manager.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know,
already
4 days
said-
in advance for a regular meeting and 36 hours for a special meeting, because special meetings are 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
But, because if a member calls Chuck or Hope and it's 24 hours or it's 48 hours before a meeting, it can't attend, right?
Basically, that's an absence.
Yeah.
Or you attend as a member of the general public.
Right.
Yes, well, they always asked in the times where I have told them that I was going to be out of town, they've made it clear when they need the address to be on the agenda.
that-
So that gives you a deadline right there.
Yeah,
So,
that's what that's where my head was going, was that it would be tied to when you release the agenda publicly.
Right, and that's the challenge, because that's more than 72 hours in advance in our case usually.
and I have to say one other point, which is just tangential, but when I have been out of town or sick and have called in, especially for the SAM meetings, I asked the vice chair, the vice president to run the meeting because it's really hard to run the meeting from Zoom. It's a lot easier when you're sitting, and this speaks to the reason why we want the whole board in the room. It is much easier to run a meeting when you're all sitting together and you can wants to speak.
So I
So
was gonna have Nancy run the meeting tonight. Oh, that's right. Barbara, sorry.
I'm not sure I'm in better shape than you though. I think it's better to have you tonight. Anyway, but we're all here too.
I know, that's my point, is I'm wherever I am. Yeah, so
Is that
Okay.
clear what we want?
So I had, because I had anticipated that he might want some restriction. So there is one thing you could add to this policy, a sentence. And it would basically be under the standard teleconferencing procedures, you'd add an A before the current A, that would say the member is traveling outside of the district for business or vacation and cannot make the meeting except by attending the meeting from a remote location outside of the district. Then it's
Yeah.
clear that outside the district.
Yep.
And then they would not be able to vote.
No,
They would.
they would be able to vote. They would be able to vote. It's just if they were inside the district and you attended remotely, you would just be a member of the public, and in that instance.
Got
you
it.
can't vote.
Okay, yeah.
So
Well, we won't,
Very
we won't
elegant
be doing
solution.
that.
$15.
Or there you
Yeah,
go.
I guess the point is, we're not going to be doing that. We're discussing this so we can all be in the same room. Unless there are extenuating circumstances where we are sick or
for cause
on
of emergency.
vacation or
Yes.
on business.
And just so you know, the just cause provision, and for instance, when you were sick,
Mhm.
you have to post your location and allow members of the public. And if you're sick, you don't want members of the public coming into your house, right? So
Right.
I mean, and that's, that's just an excused absence of that. So if the just cause provision is not exercised, or it no longer exists after January 1st of 26.
That's actually another reason not to put it in the motion. Because it may not exist after January 26th.
Well,
Put it in a
it's
policy.
it's in the policy here, but it may go away. But again, there's a bill pending to
Extend it.
and I think it will be extended.
Okay,
You might want to send a letter supporting the extension.
sorry, do you want to?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that if you support the extension, please send a letter. Your representatives get so few letters. And it makes a difference if, and 4 letters from this board, 1 for each member of the board, each director of the board, is 4 times as many pieces of paper as a single one with 4 signatures.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yes.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yes.
Again, speaking for myself, not a member of the MCC or any other affiliate. I want to be really delicate how I say this. It was not the intention of myself or 2 other members of the community to surprise Jill this evening. No agenda was posted. We were pretty ceremoniously dismissed and redirected ourselves here. I think for the spirit of transparency, I would like somebody to respond as to whether or not Jill phoned in immediately this evening, yesterday, 2 days ago, whether or not she reached out at all would be relevant. Echoing the sentiment that you heard time and time and time again at our last meeting, the community wants to see Jill here at this meeting. And I want to say to the community at large that this is not an issue of a board making a decision unilaterally without the consideration of public input and comment. This is not a board reacting or acting in a way to be spiteful or condescending to another board member. This is a matter of respect. This is a matter of communing with your community and showing up as Wanda stated. I was pretty surprised to, go to Jill's home as a remote designation and, find out just this evening that that was not something that happened. If I was in a wheelchair, if I was elderly, if I had mobility issues, and I went through the effort of making it to that space only to be turned away, I would have been, much more disappointed. For the record, I think this rule, whatever it is, a rule or a bylaw, it favors one person, Jill. She is the one who uses this to not attend these meetings. I think you have stated with common sense and a good amount of research that if somebody is sick or traveling, there are exceptions that can be made and are understandable. But if somebody is a block away and simply does not want to be in the room with their fellow board members or address the public in the public forum that is set up to do so, it just smacks of disrespect. Thank you for taking the time to look into this and to make the policy change. I fully endorse it, and I know hundreds of community members. I can get some letters on a signature on a letter tomorrow if you would ask, that also feel the same way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just, for the record, I want to say that this is an item that we were meant to speak on last month that we kicked to this month because of the number of community members that joined us and the conversations that we were having. And so we just felt like the meeting was getting later and later. So this is actually not in retribution to anything that happened around the sign or any of those things. This was an item that we had planned already. And in fact, as president, when I met with Chuck and with Hope, planning the agenda, we wanted to sort of have it all happen last month. So we had every intention of covering all of the things, including this item. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Last month it was described by Jill as a political smear campaign.
That's fine. I'm just,
Yeah, but this was part.
I'm saying that this was separate and independent of and was already on the agenda prior to any other issue that was later added to the agenda because of.
Yeah, just what you said, yes. part of our cycle. We've been going through all the policies. This
Correct.
was the next in line.
Correct. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear. And then, we did receive notice, myself and Chuck, I don't know the timing of everything, but we did receive notice from,
Bill did, yeah.
it was you and I.
6:03 PM.
Okay,
Yeah.
6:03 PM this evening. So that will receive notice that undergrad was not joining.
And there was no agenda posted on that door for the last 3 days. I went every single one.
Got it. All right. So do we have a motion?
We finished with all public comment?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
So before our motion, we also have to do the yellow highlighted
Oh.
side there.
I would suggest it says members of the board are expected to attend meetings in person, but we make that qualification to item A that Bill suggested.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought we agreed on that already.
Yeah.
On the highlighted yellow.
Yeah, okay.
So there's no.
Want to make the motion clear.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's no shall or.
Right, there's no, yeah,
There's no or. Okay.
yeah. And then I just think you were gonna provide a modified motion.
Okay.
Was I misassuming?
Nope, that's why I asked to
Okay.
put that
Yeah.
A. So I move that the board directs the staff to develop the board member attendance and teleconferencing policy with the board, members of the board expected to attend meetings in person and under the general teleconferencing policies that the board members are expected to attend in person unless they are traveling outside the boundaries of the district. If they are physically within the district, they are expected to attend the meeting in person.
Yeah, and for clarification, Bill's insertion was under
Your
standard
teleconferencing,
not
part A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's standard teleconference.
And then we
Do
don't
you need me to
need any
read the-
part of the motion on the for cause because do that as they come up.
It's in here. I believe.
It's already in. I think
It's actually in the
stated, yeah.
policy.
Is that adequate?
Yeah, so adopt the whole, and then I already read the provision in insert, so unless you want me to read it again.
As long as Hope took it down.
We have it written. So to understand, we are adopting the policy tonight. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
With,
Part of
with
the
the added, right,
With the strike through at the top yellow and the added A.
A.
And I have a question for Bill. So what if a board member does not attend in person for multiple times? I mean, what happens then?
So that raises up an interesting question. If it's not an excused absence for 3 meetings in a row, in our case, that would be 3 months.
Mhm.
Then the member can lose their seat.
And define excused.
So you can be ill, you can, I mean, an extended illness or any other intervening event, it's unexcused, right? So it would have to be, it really has to be someone that just decides, I'm not coming to meetings
Right, but if I say I'm ill for the next 9 months, do I have any responsibility or obligation of proving that to somebody?
Well, you raised some interesting questions that I would happy to talk to you offline about
Okay.
that, but basically it would, obviously the district is not going to probe into a member's
Correct.
detailed
Right.
medical history or anything like that, but yeah, but I mean, generally you wouldn't lose your seat in that instance.
Right.
But yeah, it's unexcused absences, right? So
Yeah.
it really comes down to someone who just doesn't want to attend board
The
meetings.
board can decide what's an excused absence by some process.
Well, no, it's really driven by state law because this board does not have the power to remove a director.
Yeah.
So it's really driven by state law.
What does can lose their seat mean?
Well, again, it's a complicated issue. I'm just gonna say, it's like one of those.
Point heard.
Like
Okay,
discussing
okay, moving on.
liability in open session. Let's not.
Moving on. All right. So
Thank you.
we have a motion on the table from Dr. Marsh. We have
Yes.
no.
Do we have a second?
We
I
did
was,
not.
I'll second.
Roll call. Director Bowles.
Yes.
Director Di.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Yes.
Director March.
Yes.
Passes 4-0.
All right. Next up, consideration of the formation of an ad hoc committee to research use options related to 480 Avenue Alhambra. This is mine. So as a follow-up to last month's discussion and the survey and feedback from the community, obviously we agreed that we would continue with, you know, the secret process, and we would you know, want to be able to proceed ultimately with the park and the development of the park, and we would continue to understand sort of the community sentiment and options relative to the property that Picasso sits on. So what I've put together here is just an attempt at proposing a way that we might continue to get information. So my interest this evening is not necessarily to like ram anything down anyone's throat. Like, if you guys don't like it, let's talk about it. But I wanted to lay out my thinking so that it was transparent to the board how we might proceed in this next ad hoc committee, so that we could continue to solicit community and perspective. We could bring back to the table a lot of the research and work that Director Marsh has already done. We could determine if there are experts or outside third-party voices that we could bring in to help educate our community around our options. Effectively just continue to have communication and conversation around what are the possibilities, and then put together sort of a final perspective that says, here's really what, you know, are the options that are in front of this board and this community, and then proceed. So that is the intention of this next ad hoc committee. Yeah.
I actually, Director Randall, appreciate and support actually the proposal as you wrote it. It's really useful. It caused me to do some reflection on the communication in general. And at GCSD, the players on the board and in the staff change. One of the interesting things reflecting on the principal over time is every 2 years, the parents change. And so every 2 years, there's a whole new group of parents saying, wait, where did this come from?
Right.
But what we have, so we lose the thread of what
Yes.
we've explored, what we've discussed, why we did what we did. And so as I go through this, notes, as I make notes, but I'll try to do that quickly. We went really quiet after the initial designs were moved forward in April of 2023. And similar to Director Dye's comment on, you know, we need a meet your park to keep refreshing the community's understanding of what's being proposed, what we've learned so far, where we learned it from. So I kind of really liked things like the core questions, even with the 3 different approaches if we, you know, in exploring maintaining the current plan, we do need to build a much more comprehensive narrative about what a community rec center is, what they do, the kind of range of programming, the benefits to different elements and demographics in the community. And what we have tended to do is basically just a description of physical spaces. Do you want a fitness room? Do you want an art room? Do you want a meeting room? And that doesn't talk about what it does for the community. And so it just made me think through that. Exploring modified approaches, including hybrid. There are benchmarks. I visited a number of them, but I didn't necessarily learn what it took for them to get to that spot. So even, you know, with the question of powers, there's a lot we don't know about. Actually talked to our special districts rep on LAFCO about what it really means to take on powers. But I think that should be, you know, researched more so that we have a narrative. If we choose not to do that, we've got a stronger narrative about why. We had a lot of help from an architect on interviewing hybrid, but that thread also is lost. So I think it gives us a really good opportunity to pull various conversations over the last 4 years together into a real package, including sale, understanding the implications of what it means to be surplus property. The lawyer for the Picasso owner asked us for the year extension because they said they are, you know, looking for a potential buyer who could make an offer. You know, we need to think about what we would do with that and kind of be prepared if that comes. And then if we decide to sell and nobody buys it, then what do we do? So it's important kind of proactive conversations. On the process, I think it's just right. Review the existing research. I think the ad hoc committee should meet with the architect who gave us all of the information about what's possible on the site, including restrictions of the local coastal plan and the zoning and the building codes and so on, so that we are all as conversant as I've tried to be, and maybe even more conversant than I've tried to be. Engaging external efforts, PAC did, and it's now 4 years ago, a learning meeting with the directors of the Half Moon Bay and Pacifica rec center directors, and that conversation is lost to history, but there are more we should look at, like Highlands or Beresford Park, that do have childcare corporations, and just do more learning from those, and what they do, how they make it actually a lively thing for the community and not just a space. And then a meaningful community engagement that brought something to mind that we did for the park that I just want to describe quickly. At the workshop we had for the park, where 60 people came and the Parks Advisory Committee facilitated, we had them line up. We actually found within that group the different segments of our community who wanted different things. And we had them line up from the people who wanted a completely passive, serene park to people who wanted every sort of active thing you could have. And they put themselves literally in a line, and then we divided them into groups, and they each created their own map and layout of the park. One of them was just a group of kids, which was awesome. But when they presented, they not only got to like show their perspective, they got to hear everybody else's perspective. So I would suggest that there's a couple steps there to segmenting the types of parts of the population, preschoolers, school age, seniors, the emergency response people, the small providers who do education and so on. There's several communities that can interact and benefit from the community center, and we should understand them separately, and we should help them understand each other together. And so I think maybe it's closer to 6 months than 3 months, but I think there's really a robust outcome to be had, and I think you laid it out really well.
Thank you. I will just say, like, I think I appreciate all the things you said. I think one of the things you said at the very beginning, I think is very powerful, which is just the turnover of parents in this community that are responding to this. And just, I think, you know, when I work with my clients in corporate settings, right, and CEOs, I say, really your job as a CEO is to say the same thing 250 times. But that's your job, like just to say it over and over and over again 250 times, because that's how many times it will take for people to understand your vision and what you're trying to do. And I think that the fact that we as a board only meet once a month and, you know, are only talking about this once a month, for us, we feel like we are so in it, but the rest of the community is not as engaged. And even if out of this, we came up with like the simplest FAQs of questions that we know the community asks with our point of view as like research we've done, the work that's gone into it and our perspective and why we're moving the way we are, that could be on the website. It would help people understand a narrative. And I do think we have a responsibility to create a vision, to create something aspirational and exciting for our community versus just, we've been working on this forever, this is why we're doing it, which I know that's not the answer, but it sometimes feels like we default to that sort of response level of, we just got to keep doing this because this is what we've committed to doing. And so I think there's just an opportunity here to build community during this time when there's not a lot of community. You know, this is a great thing to be proud of, and it's really special. And if we figure this out, it will be a great place for us. In a coast that is often ignored, we have to do for ourselves, right? So I think there's an opportunity here. Hopefully you guys.
Yeah, I think having a good, solid communication plan that includes the history, the type of activities, you know, and actions that we have done and what the results of that are, and, you know, would really have a nice lengthy timeline to, you know, what we've done and where we're headed. That would be, I think, valuable for the community to see and read.
And so to that point, and given this little thing called the Brown Act, I would propose that actually you are my partner in this.
I'm happy to do it. And the reason is, I was gonna say, the vision thing is the thing, you know, I'm good at all the nuts and bolts, but I'm a really good number 2, more than a good number 1 with the vision thing.
Yeah.
And so I would be happy to join with that.
Because you have so much information that I feel like it'd be impossible to do this part of the work without engaging you and Breaking laws.
And we can't engage beyond 2 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking laws. Sounds so dramatic.
I know. Breaking laws to study research, to get research, it's gonna be.
If you want the ad hoc committee to be you and I am happy to join you.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I fully support that. I think it's great. I think your view of this is very accurate. I feel as if, some of these questions we spent a lot of time on and engaged the community on and we're very involved in. But it's true, we were quiet during the mitigative negative declaration effort because more or less we were told that, shouldn't be out there making comments about it while it was just to make sure that the review was absolutely clean and that there wasn't pressure from the board in any way. So a lot of time has gone by and new people don't know about it. So I really like the idea of taking not only the work that's already been done, but a new look at the issues and the needs and so forth. And let's make it part of, I think we'd have 2 parts of Meet Your Park. Down the way, we can have Meet Your Community Center or whatever and so forth. And I also heard,
If we have that, we've got a very robust story.
yes, I think that's great. And I completely support it. Do we need a motion for that?
Oh, we
Yeah.
public comment first. Yeah, public comment, go for it. You know what to do.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, and if I do run a little over, I hope you'll give me a little bit of a grace period, considering last time I had some time taken away from me. I support the recommendation, but with some special considerations to be given to fact, to be given to truth, especially as it surrounds Picasso, the school, Mrs. Picasso, the efforts that I just met with her last week and revisited the steps that she took to ensure that her passion project, that school, would live on. And with the current tenant not responding to 2, 3 viable offers that would have continued that school on as it exists. And not just that, I went and knocked on doors for this board to get people to complete their survey. And I heard from 150 of my community members who are so excited about this project, who view it as I do, as a legacy project, as you do, Jen, a structural change that brings community together when in so many ways communities are being shut down, stripped of the opportunity to have these types of spaces. And I think also as you frame the framework for this committee, I think it's really important to shut down the myths, to take a very compassionate, kind stance, but a firm stance, and remind people that pre-K school was never a part of the first proposal that people voted on. And you considered it in this one because you wanted to get that feedback. And taking this extra step, I think gives you opportunities on many areas, how this space is used, the hours, people complaining on Nextdoor, there's gonna be wedding receptions until midnight. And just, I think it's important that we embrace the truth when we know the truth, and to frame the conversation around those truths instead of creating an opportunity for people to have false hope and to step to this board with myths or ideas that they've heard on some other platform instead of this group themselves. I think it's really important that as you start this process, you think about the myths that you can put to bed, that you can say, we've already heard about this, and here are the answers. I went through a process. I engaged Nancy. I engaged Hope. I took all the horrible mistruths, half-truths, misinformation that was being posted on Nextdoor, and I asked Hope to answer every single one of them. And I've gotten written responses of them. And I wanted to provide that to the community as I ask this board anything. So I'm happy to share that because I think some very interesting information came out I have followed this project for 10 years, not 8 years, not 4 years, not 2 years. I think that it's a great idea. I want to see this recreation center in my community, in our community. And kudos to you to doing the important thing, which is not silencing community voice. When we stop listening to our community, when we shut down our community's voice, that's when we are acting rogue and nefarious. So kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agony wanted to comment.
Sure, Michelle.
Hi, I used to be on the PAC, the Parks Advisory Committee. And we helped get the pump track built and the skate ramp built. And then during COVID, we were just deleted. And the PAC is really like the linebacker for the GCSD board. We are the ad hoc committee, but we don't have one anymore. I think we should have one again. That's my comment. Thank you. Thanks, Hope.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Any other public comments? All right, any more board? All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we establish an ad hoc committee made up of directors Randall and Marsh to implement the recommendations in the memo.
I second.
Director Bolt,
Aye.
Director Dunn.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Yep.
Director Marsh.
Yes.
That's 4-0.
Thank you.
Page 3.
Oh my goodness, Parks and Recreation activities.
Okay, quickly, we just had our sound therapy session in here last week. It went great. Nature Walk is being rescheduled. Barbara wasn't feeling well, so we will do that because we have 19 people registered. The level 2 drawing class was canceled. This weekend, we have our recycling event with paper shredding down at the parking lot from 8 to noon. And then we have our egg hunt at Quarry Park. And I would say that maybe if the ad hoc committee is up to it, it would be a really valuable opportunity to talk to some people. And if you can pull something together between now and Saturday.
Put us on the spot.
I mean, it's a great opportunity to see a
Yes.
lot of.
And I can
certain
get
age
candy.
group. Yeah, and you can get
Oh,
candy,
you
we
mean
have
this-
dog treats.
This Saturday? Oh, that's
It's
right.
this Saturday, we'll have the
Dogs
dog
have to
costume
dress up.
contest as well. So
Hey,
you dress your dog up.
And
Multiple times I went to things with the plans and just said, anybody want to see?
Actually, last year we had the plans with us as well and talked to people about it, so. Yes, that the egg hunt starts at 10 o'clock at Quarry Park. And then at 10:30 is the dog contest, the dog costume contest. It's really fun. We also have one more wellness series coming up. We have our ongoing events with the computer tutoring, where we're partnering with senior co-siders volunteers to come up and provide computer tutoring. Bookmobile is still coming. Just on to the park planning briefly. We have been in touch with Tom Conroy from KKDE, which is now KCRH. They changed their name.
It's like a public radio.
It does.
And they are working on that design or the coastal development permit application at this point. Also, we had our meeting with San Mateo Resource Conservation District on the 27th of March, and they will be presenting us with their proposed budget for the next fiscal year. That will include, a few different things like the site surveys, bird surveys, site visits, and some updated mowing guidelines. They're also going to work with us in coordination on the regulatory agency
Great.
applications.
That's really good.
There's a sign by the fire station, the chips, they're doing the wood chipping.
Oh, wood chipping, yeah.
The wood chipping program is coming around, so.
CHP.
Yes. But is that
I think you're right. I
something
think
that
it's
we're
26th.
promoting or the wood chipping?
It's certainly something that we can put up on our website and on social media. We do a lot of cross advertising for
Okay.
people, so I'll reach out to RCB and get some of their collateral to put up.
Pick up your own chips?
What was that?
Pick up your own chips? Like,
You pick them up, right? You want me to?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I'm wearing my MCC hat. We had a presentation from Thomas with RCD at our last MCC meeting. A lot of actually great stuff went into his slides. So if you want to take a look at our slide deck on there, I think there's a lot of valuable information. And GCSD did come up as a part of that. But the CHIPS program is a program where if you take down trees on neglected or lots that abut your home or even in, your own yard, if you move them to within a certain proximity of the curb, they will come out, chip and haul away all the debris for you as part of the RCD's programming.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I have a comment. I don't think I know it's in the project description, but it would be really great if we had some kind of sign somewhere that had the activities listed. Something, I know our sign at the bottom of Portola was a temporary permit. But just to have people know.
Like how the land trust, when you come on 92, and
Yeah,
you see the
just-
board of like what's.
Something small, nothing big and ugly, just something, I wonder if we put something at the bottom of underneath the map that just says, nature walk this, or Easter egg hunt. So that people would, I think it would build a sense of community if people knew all the great things that you're doing as part of this project. Just a thought.
Yeah, we could probably put something down there. We also post flyers at the post office when he lets us, and at Spangler's and different places like that for individual events. And sometimes it'll list out 3 or 4 events.
Yeah,
So we
that's
do try to
great.
put something out, but yeah, it would
Just
be
a thought.
nice.
On the banner on the website.
We could add it to the banner on the website. I mean, it's on the upcoming activities. But we could.
I don't know, just
There's
something.
thoughts around on the banner.
Well, that's a nice visual because people see that and well, sometimes a lot of people go into our website.
Yeah.
I just want to actually compliment Hope and Nora on the social media, because I see how often, so you're not just saying it once, you're saying it like weekly and over when something is upcoming, and I think we've got a much more robust next door presence than we used
I
to
will
have.
give Nora full.
I saw Nora on here, so Nora, I just wanted to give you credit.
Maybe it's just that slight age difference, but I don't really go on social media, mostly because I know it'll suck me in and I won't get off. So she's really good at going on, posting things and then getting off again.
I actually run that program.
Well, you guys joke, but I have
Look at Nora's giving us a heart.
Members that have commented on your comments, Chuck. Yeah, on Nextdoor, they're like,
Really?
yeah, like people are noticing that. Like when issues happen, that GCSD is commenting back.
I've actually heard community members say that they really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I just want, like someone said earlier, when you have praise to give, you should give it all.
And I will say the one tricky thing with Nextdoor is, we have a GCSD Nextdoor account. But it's not very interactive. Agency sites on Nextdoor are not very interactive. So when Nora posts something on there, a lot of times she can't comment back. If somebody comments on it, and then depending on what it is, sometimes we don't open comments. And so then I'll end up posting it on my personal one as well, because it just has a wider reach.
Yeah.
But that gets a little tricky because of course my name says, Hope Attenborough Happy Bay, and then it just gets a little confusing.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll try to remember to just share it, because then it just
Yeah.
gets up in the thread.
Yeah,
You are.
yeah, but it is useful if you guys see things on Nextdoor to share it onto your own personal pages as well.
I also think the community would be interested in seeing this anticipated future timeline for the park and so forth. It's more aggressive than I thought it was going to be. They're talking about having a package ready to complete by September. I mean, obviously, we've already submitted the first thing and it's been accepted, and then a whole bunch more stuff has to be turned in.
Yeah, I mean,
And
really,
then,
yeah, it might be overly
yes,
optimistic, but you gotta start something.
now we have good people pushing it to keep it moving. Anyway, I don't know if there's a way to just post this as a document on the website.
It's on the
Is
website.
it on there?
The document that we had up there that we pulled down after the October MND meeting, as we couldn't update it because it was up in the air, so we will post it back.
Great. I'm just saying, I think the community.
It's posted right now as part of the
Oh, it
packet.
is.
As part of the packet,
Oh.
but
Oh.
it will be.
You'd
posted.
have to go pretty deep in that
Yeah,
packet.
exactly. No, but we wanted you to see it before we put it up
We had, we had a member of the community post on Nextdoor that she found the timeline and wanted to know where she could get more information. So
I was impressed that
she
found
she
out.
must have dug.
I'm still suspended from next door, so another couple days.
Oh, Barbara, I'll need that information.
Posted information about
Please don't
protests.
feel bad.
All 6 local moderators said my posts were fine, but somebody reported me up the chain.
Got it. Okay. So then nothing on Parks and Recreations, no actions. So engineers report.
We're gonna start with the CIP like we talked about this coming June, July. I would ask the 2 SAM board reps about the Montero force main replacement. Are you getting updates on that monthly?
No.
At the SAM meeting? I think-
No, I ask about it and I'm told that it's going well.
I'm gonna send something then to Kish and say
Saying,
we need
yes,
to have a
more
monthly
detailed.
update on it because. yeah.
I agree.
The last time meeting was canceled, April 11th, this last Monday's meeting. So we haven't had a meeting in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right, we should just get it from a staff level to the 3-member.
Yeah.
And John's just doing that.
Are we ever going to finish the Naples Beach permit?
No.
I think it's been on his report for
That
2
was-
years.
Getting the use permit or whatever we called it, for right of entry permit from state parks took 4 or 5 years. So they're not speedy on that.
But it doesn't really matter. We have permission
The
to
pipe
do
is
it.
there,
And
right.
as long as we're in the process, there's,
Right, but I'd still rather to.
yes, have it done,
It
yes.
lingers. And that's all I got
And
there.
I don't know if the community realized how clever that was, what you did.
Yeah, that was John.
Taking the whole sewer and turning it the other way and getting it off the bridge. Well done.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the community? All right, seeing as then there are no actions to be taken or approved. Sorry, just kidding.
No.
No actions? Okay. All right, report on SAM meetings.
Nothing further to
I
add.
mean,
Nothing,
covered it.
it's mainly budget over the last month, so nothing new to report.
Okay, so no actions, then we'll move to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I just have one, I don't want to pull anything, but I have one question for Chuck on the financial statements, and that's the one big negative on the financial statements is the depreciation expense. Do we not budget for that?
No, because it's a non-cash item,
Okay,
so,
it just shows up on your P and L as a negative.
right, and then normally I would take that off actually, but I don't like to mess with the CPA's documents, but if we were doing it at my place, we take off depreciation.
Okay.
It's not real.
On that,
And I did notice that the revenue from the property tax revenue was less than budgeted by a couple $100,000 or $100,000. Do you think it's gonna
No,
come
that,
back?
yeah, that has to be a timing issue.
Okay.
We
It hasn't
actually-
gone down in 20 years.
Yeah, we
literally.
just got the deposit came in this past Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, we'll see
So
next
just-
month.
Yeah, so 2 months from now, you'll see
It's
it.
basically been 4% a year for the past years I can remember.
Great.
Okay. All right, so then. Do you have a motion? Oh, any community
Oh,
questions on consent agenda? All right.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
a second?
Director Bowles,
Aye.
Director Dunn.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Aye.
Director Marsh.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Committee reports.
Can you put the thing, or
I can say you have some to share this month.
I do, I went to the conference of
She has to
County
report.
Leadership Conference, and it was interesting. I sat at a table with some of the Half Moon Bay people and a few other people, met people from various elected positions around the county. There was kind of some visioning. Can we make this bigger? And I just, wanted to share this is the minutes of the meeting. Can you pull up one of those to fill it up? I mean, this woman stood there and drew this as we were talking. And
Kind of like a vision board thing, right?
yeah, I mean, it was amazing. So the first thing is we
There it goes.
talked about how we saw our organizations and our communities in the future. And, what are the good things and what else can happen. How do we hold multiple time horizons, everyone comes to the future with a different lens and that kind of thing. And then we talked about how as elected officials, we can shape tomorrow in uncertain times. And you can just see, all the things that, lots of brainstorming, lots of thinking about it. It was valuable because it kind of takes you out of your everyday looking at agendas and started thinking about big picture. And then there's one more at the bottom. It was a 3-hour meeting, and then we talked about what San Mateo County is going to look like in 2035. But no air pollution, urban mixed-use design, driverless cars, open plan schools, vertical farming, wildlife corridors, meditation zones, and so forth, and more pets. It was, thank you for sending me. I thought it was very interesting. It was a good experience, so I appreciate it.
Amazing.
Thank you for your
Awesome.
report.
I recommend
Yeah.
that someone else go to one of these meetings, and it kind of, especially if that lady's drawing this. It was really fun.
Yeah, those artists are amazing to
It
watch.
was really fun to watch.
All right, any other comments from the board? Any comments from the community?
Really quick. So MCC hat, you guys kind of touched on this at different points, but one of my fellow MCC members mentioned the need for our kind of community's cross-organizational comprehensive calendar. There are often times when we don't know who's meeting when, what they're going to discuss. Hope you mentioned a series of events that would also be a very welcomed contribution to such an idea as this. So I'd like to just as the MCC liaison, recommend that if you have an interest in that kind of sister organizational like calendar or organizing around that you maybe send if you have time, Jen, to send a message to the MCC Jen email where we all get it and see it in support of that, and being able to contribute to that, whether that comes through Hope directly or various members of this board. But I think that we all kind of agreed that oftentimes we miss things because there is just so much going on. Sometimes there's conflicting things. I also think that would be a big benefit to the community, as did my colleague, to see such a calendar posted on multiple sites. Like you said, repeating something over and over. I think if the community had multiple places where they could look at toolkits or resources, over time, they would know this is the place to go to look at a week, in advance and know what's going on and what I can attend and what I want to prioritize. So thank you.
I would say that COSI Buzz does have a calendar that maybe could be,
It's not as comprehensive.
well, I mean, but
That's what you're
it's-
saying,
it's-
add
we
it.
have to add
Yeah.
our things to that calendar. It's up to the individual organizations to go on there and list their events. So I think if there was a concerted effort by multiple organizations to do that, then it could be one.
I think it's really interesting
Oh, it's a
to
really
have
good
a
idea.
fully integrated community calendar that everybody who schedules things contributes to.
I like that a lot versus relying on an individual send an email to like everyone, like then everyone's getting all these emails versus if we're centrally
Yeah.
sort of putting everything in a repository, then everyone, to your point, can go to that calendar and look and see like everything that's happening when it comes.
Can I just add? So we did form a task force around outreach and sharing information. I sit on that along with Connie and Scott. And I think that this was something that we felt taking on the entire unincorporated coast side and working closely with county, that perhaps it would be something that we got support from other organizations, our sister organizations here in the community, that it might be something that we take on. I think it's completely fine and relevant to have it in multiple places, but for us to be able to contribute and give that as a resource back to the community was the goal. So
Great, love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing, no actionable, no actions to take on community reports. We'll move to information calendars, attorney's report,
No report.
general manager report.
Nothing besides to say thank you, Jen, for moving this meeting, the heavy agenda very quickly.
Try.
Yes.
I was hoping we were gonna make it earlier, but we're doing the best we can. Administrative staff report.
I included a memo this time to kind of let everybody know what's going on. That's, Director Dye had asked him a couple of times to have sort of more regular updates, so I will, make that a point each month to do that. The one thing that I did not include on here that, I just want to point out is that we have had discussions with Ecology, and there will be changes to the trash pickup schedules coming up. Probably around mid-May, we'll know more. I'll be able to show you maps by our next meeting. And they're gonna be sending out plenty of notice, and we're gonna be putting it all over social media, but they're consolidating some of their pickups so that it will be less noisy for people in the mornings, hopefully.
Oh,
And
great.
it'll be
Not
way
4
more
o'clock
efficient.
anymore?
Yeah, it'll be a lot more efficient. Also, that very last bullet that's on there about the letter of support for the brick grant that we did. I just received something from them today saying that the FEMA funding for that had been pulled. And so now they've asked us to do 2 other letters of support to 2 other potential funders. So we'll be doing that.
okay.
Is the annual report to the California Integrated Water Quality System Project a big report?
It's cumbersome in that there's a lot to it, but it's generally just carrying things over from the previous year.
Because I'd like to see, is there a way I could see that? Can it be emailed?
I'll look. I'm not sure if that's something.
Just
that-
interested.
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing. Thanks.
You would actually really enjoy it because it talks about the miles of different diameter pipes and things like
Oh, yeah.
that.
Maybe I'll come into the office and get a copy.
All right, and then future agenda items. My thing tapped out. I can't see.
Just policies update, presentation of the district audit. That's really the most time sensitive one. RCD presentation and feasibility of Porta Johns and Foods unscheduled yet.
Anything else to add?
What was that last comment?
We added feasibility of Porta Johns and tables to the park area.
Oh, sorry about that.
Ahead of the park. It's not scheduled.
Okay, anything else to add? Agendas? Okay. So do we have to vote on that?
No.
So anything else? That's it. We're done. Adjourning the meeting at 8:48.
Thank you.
9 o'clock. Thank you, everybody.